Governor Charlie Baker is with us this morning in studio. Let's go on the record. Fighting to stop the surge with a COVID-19 vaccine now just weeks away, the life and death challenges that we still face, and what recovery could look like in 2021. The governor is here. Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
And welcome to OTR. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wu. Our guest this morning is the governor of the Commonwealth, Charlie Baker. And as we have throughout this entire pandemic, we follow all social distancing protocols here in Studio C. The distances between all of us are well beyond the 6-foot level. Guidelines set down by the man at the center desk. He said we separate, and we have. Governor Charlie Baker, thank you for joining us this morning. There is much to talk about. It's great to see you.
You too. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get right to it. Daily COVID numbers are setting new records day by day this past week. White House task force recommends you roll back the reopening of our economy statewide instead of decisions being made city by city. Are they right?
So first of all, we said back in the early fall that we expected there'd be a surge here in Massachusetts after Labor Day. And despite the fact that most people are doing the right things most of the time, we are in fact in the middle of that surge, as is most of the country and frankly big parts of the Western world. And I think the things we really pay a lot of attention to, in addition to the case counts, are what's going on with hospitalizations, what's going on with ICU beds, what are the ages of the people who are contracting the virus. I mean, I think it's important to point out that in the spring, somewhere between 20 and 30% of the people who got the virus were over the age of 70, and here in the fall, that's completely reversed. I mean, basically about 80% of the people who got the virus in the last 2 weeks, according to the state's dashboard, were under the age of 60. And I think one of the things that's critically important here is how that affects both our healthcare system's ability to respond to it and also our ability to manage our way through it. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is for people to continue to take the issue of COVID seriously. I know it's been 10 months and I know everybody's worn out, and it's been brutal on friendships and neighbor relations and families and everything else. But it's really important for people to recognize and understand that, as Ned said a minute ago, the vaccine is around the corner here, but this is no point to let down our guard and stop playing.
Let me just summarize what you're saying,
Yeah.
Governor. Are you saying, in other words, that even though the numbers are up, it's less deadly and it's less serious, and that's why you're not shutting everything down totally?
Well, for many people, it is deadly, and we should never forget that. The point I was trying to make is that the experience we in Massachusetts are having with this thing in the fall is just different than the experience we had in the spring. If you looked at the spring, we literally went from a few cases and a few hospitalizations to having 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people in the hospital in the course of about 45 days. We've been on a increasing hospital trend with COVID since Labor Day, which at this point was 3 months ago, and we now have about 1,265 people in the hospital. And we had 1,000 people in the ICU back in the spring, and we now have about 260 people there now. We're paying day-to-day attention on those numbers, and we talk to the hospital community on a nonstop basis about it. But there's no question that the community that's getting infected is different this time than the community that got infected in the spring.
Dr. Fauci says shut down the bars, keep the schools open. But then Framingham superintendent says that he has evidence that shows there is transmission in schools. So conflicting messages. Who's right?
So while I'm with Dr. Fauci on the bars question, we are one of the few states that has never opened the bars back up. And we opened restaurants up with some of the most aggressive guidance in the country. And by the way, tip of the hat to the folks at the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission. They've done almost 10,000 surveys of institutions that serve liquor since we implemented that guidance last summer, and their presence has made a big difference with respect to compliance. On Fauci and the school question, I would just say this: schools have been open all over the world for many months, pretty much since March, and the big message that has come from that, including a lot of longitudinal studies that have been done, is that schools are not a very risky place with respect to transmission. And we actually have a sort of a demonstration that's been going on here in Massachusetts since August, which are the parochial schools.
Do you think more schools should be open, more public schools should be open, and that many communities are being too cautious?
Well, I look at the parochial schools. We have 30,000 students, 4,000 staff. The vast majority of them serve at-risk kids in high-risk communities, and they've had a handful of cases since the beginning of this, basically
what's been the
following
difference?
our guidance.
So what's been the difference, Governor, between the parochial schools and the private schools and the public schools?
Well, we've said for a while that, the American Academy of Pediatrics signed off on our guidance. We spent a bunch of time working with a variety of doctors on it. And the schools that have chosen to open, for the most part, have opened successfully. If you look at the data that the folks at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education put out every week on the number of cases, we have like 500,000 kids and teachers in school, and there are a couple of hundred cases of students and a couple of hundred cases of teachers.
So
and remember, for the most part, these are people who call in sick. It's not like they showed up at school and got sent away. Is it possible that there can be transmission in a school? Sure, but there's a ton of evidence that suggests it's pretty rare.
So you're saying more schools should be open, and are you saying that it is the unions that are preventing a lot of the schools from, opening, having more students in the classrooms?
In Massachusetts, the state actually provides resources to sort of level the playing field on money. We basically create curriculum frameworks that everybody's got to abide by. We create accountability through our exam structure, but the decision about how you're going to educate kids in Massachusetts has always been a local decision. And I would argue that I think the data and the science and the pediatric community and a whole bunch of other folks have said kids are much healthier if they're in school than if they're not. And there's just a huge body of evidence, especially for the K through 5 and the K through 8 kids. The remote and online learning is incredibly difficult for them. I've said for months now, having talked to a lot of teachers about this, I don't know how you teach a first grader or a second grader to read remotely. And I would much rather see kids in school. And I've said that for a while. And but I respect the fact that that's a decision that gets made for the most part at the local level. The one thing I do worry about is we do have standards in Massachusetts about learning time. Kids under state law are supposed to be in school for 180 days a year, and they're supposed to get 8 hours education a day. And I really do worry about whether or not a lot of kids are actually getting access to the education that they are statutorily required to receive.
Let's talk about just the stress on the system, or where we're going now. You were at the DCU Center in Worcester this week, and you announced a new field hospital in Lowell. So here's the question. How likely is that the Boston Convention Center will be needed as well? Because Mayor Walsh seems to indicate that could be soon.
So we focus on places where we believe we have an immediate issue. And the DCU Center in Worcester was a tremendous asset in the spring to folks in Central Mass and Western Mass. Merrimack Valley up in Lowell, we have a site up there that we'll be partnering with Lowell General Hospital on. And we're currently talking to our folks in the friends in the South Coast about putting a facility together down there. If we need to go to Boston, we will. We have access to the same gear and the same places we did it in the spring. But at this point in time, we're more interested in Worcester and Lowell and the South Coast. There's still we have a lot of hospital capacity in Boston, as I think everybody knows.
Let's talk about vaccines, Governor. You're making plans now to distribute the vaccine once it's available. Yep. Do you think it will be at least early spring before most of us, not on the front lines or in residential settings, can be vaccinated? So most of the scenarios, okay, and they are scenarios. Remember, stuff still needs to be approved, and there's a bunch of stuff that needs to happen. But the expectation at this point is that we'll get about 300,000 doses in Massachusetts before the end of the calendar year. Okay? You must be pretty happy that Moderna and Pfizer are both making many of these vaccines here in Massachusetts.
Not just happy, but incredibly proud of the fact that so much of the work that's been done by a lot of players in this space is being done in Massachusetts. Johnson & Johnson has a major clinical trial going on with several hospitals here in Boston on their vaccine as well. But I think the thing I would say is that if you follow the expectations with respect to manufacture and distribution based on the current timelines, clearly people are going to start with healthcare workers and older folks and long-term care folks and folks who have pre-existing conditions and comorbidities. Those are going to be the people that everybody is going to want to serve first, which I think we all get and we understand. But that process, if all goes according to plan, should be pretty far along and maybe even pretty close to done by the time you get to March, which means, March forward, you could be in a situation where people who want to get vaccinated will be able to, because you'll have worked your way through the communities that people were most concerned about with respect to preserving life and protecting our healthcare system.
Governor Baker is with us this morning. We're on the record.